Hi, we're Lydia and Ethan, and today we want to tell you our adoption story. It's one full of heartbreak, unknowns, and immeasurable joy.
Okay, big sister holding her brother.
Oh, look, you holding him.
But before we get started, let's give you a little bit more color of who we are.
Last year, at the start of 2021, we moved our 4 kids out of a subdivision and onto a 20-acre apple orchard. Our family, we love adventure.
Don't do this at home, kids.
So, whether that is traveling, creating something beautiful, or getting our hands dirty,
My precious.
you never know what you're gonna get with us. So go ahead and lean in. We don't want you to miss a thing.
Okay, so first off, what we do want to say is the only reason why we're making this video is we want to encourage people watching this video to adopt. We've met a ton of people in our lives who have not been able to have their own kids, and they're very uneasy about the process of adoption. And so we're making this video to tell you how awesome adoption really is and encourage you to go adopt. It's awesome.
People have the fear that they may not love an adopted child as much as they would love a biological child. They fear that they will miss out on the beauty of delivering their own child, having a pregnancy. And I can tell you right now, from having my own pregnancies and having my own biological children and adopting, I do not value one birth over the other. I don't value just one experience over the other. You really do love them so equally.
Yeah, it's seriously the same. It doesn't feel that different. And I think that's the big thing, is everybody feels like, well, having your own is so significant. And I'm telling you that when you adopt, it's the adopted child is just as significant. And the love is just as real as all the others are.
Yes.
Yes. So let's get started. So the year is 2020. It is the month of February. We are just doing our daily lives, just working. Lydia's working, I'm working. And we had already signed up for the adoption process through an adoption agency. We'll do another video of that later. And we get a call, and the call is, hey, a birth mom picked you. I know at that point, it had been 9 months of waiting, right? 6 to 9 months, we'll say that. So 6 to 9 months of waiting, and we finally get a call of a birth mom picked you to adopt their child. They don't send you pictures. They don't send you, there was no medical history to pull on this child other than it's a male, this is his race, and he was born yesterday.
Today. He was born
today.
the night.
Yeah,
today.
that day.
Yeah.
Being able to make a decision within 1 hour that literally will change the rest of your life is more intense than I ever thought it would be.
Yes.
So we get the call. I'm working. I tell my work, hey, I'm about to make a life-changing decision. I'm done for the rest of the day. And I literally go downstairs and I pray for an hour. What do we need to do here, God? And then Lydia's doing the same thing. She's praying, and then she comes home, and we both discuss, do we want to do this? And the answer was yes.
Yes. So we didn't get to go to the hospital right away. They usually say, just wait a little bit. We're going to see when the birth mom's ready for you to come. Because literally, she had just had him in the night. She had just had him.
Yeah. And we're sitting at home after having already told them yes. We're just sitting at home waiting for the call of, okay, you can go to the hospital and see your son, which was crazy long. It felt like the longest day ever. And eventually we get the call. They say, you can come see him.
Before we get the call of coming to see him, though, we got a call asking us what name we would want to name the baby, because the birth mom had graciously allowed us to name him for his birth certificate and to be able to pick the name that he was getting. Yep. And so told her in the parking lot of my work what name we had picked, and then she said, I'll call you back in a little bit to tell you what time you get to come. Yep.
So we drive to Detroit, go to the very same hospital that our son Knightley was born at, which was really cool. We go to Detroit, we go upstairs, we meet with a social worker, and then they take us in. And I remember that feeling of walking in to be we're about to meet our son. And we have no idea what he looks like. No clue. Like we had zero.
Yeah.
It was so crazy to walk into a room and be like, they're not going to look like us. So you have no idea like what they're going to look like. And we walked up and Revy's swallow up. He's got like long black hair. We'll show you some pictures right here.
Yeah.
And I remember just like putting my hand on him and just being, because that's what I did with all of our other babies, was just put my hands on them when they were in their little thing and just being like, daddy's here, kind of thing. It was cool.
Yeah, and once your other kids have gotten a little bit bigger, you kind of forget how small newborns are again, and like seeing a adult hand on this tiny little newborn. And it's funny because he actually weighed like 1.5 pounds more than our other kids, because we had all of our children quite early. They were all preterm, and so to have a baby that was like full term and they still look tiny to you is just, it was a really fun experience.
It was really cool. So the weird thing with this hospital was they weren't very adoption friendly, and so we were there, but they wouldn't let us stay with him. So that was the weirdest part about this, was we see our baby and we're like, I want to stay here. We brought clothes and everything like that to stay at the hospital overnight with him. And we get there and then they basically tell us, no, you have to go home and wait until he's like ready to get discharged. So that was weird. So that was really difficult and hard, but not as difficult and hard as what was coming next.
So we go home and we have already texted our coworkers pictures of the baby. They encourage you to not ever post anything on social media just because you don't know what could come. And so we thankfully had not done that. But we had sent like our family pictures and our...
Not extended family, just like my parents, my siblings, her parents, her siblings, and maybe a couple grandparents.
And then our close like coworkers that were very close to us in our lives. So the next day comes and we have gotten all of our bags ready. We've gotten the diaper bag ready, packed it with boy stuff. We didn't know if we were gonna have a girl or a boy. We were open to either, so I had stuff set aside for both genders, and we packed it all up because here he is. And then Ethan gets a call.
Then I get a call and our social worker tells us that the mom changed her mind.
Yes.
And I remember just feeling like my heart felt like it just got crushed and like put into my stomach, because the feeling of giving a baby a name and then walking away felt so wrong, because like to us, giving our kids names is really significant. Like we were very thoughtful about how we named each one of our children. And so to name Revere and to give him Revere praise, that name, and then the mom changed her mind, felt so disheartening to know that, like, one, he's not going to be your son, and two, you just gave the name that you had been prayerfully holding on to for the 6 to 9 months that we were waiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I remember even talking to one of my friends on the phone after that day, and I was like, it's the weirdest feeling. It's like I only saw that baby for 20 minutes and I'm devastated. Like I am broken. Like I don't know if I can do this again. I don't know if I can wait for another baby. I don't know if I can see another child and like envision them as my own. They feel like your own. Like it is the weirdest feeling to be picked and see this child, and you feel like they're yours, and then all of a sudden they're not.
Yeah. Which is really why a lot of people struggle with the idea of adoption, but there's a lot of redemption here. We're heartbroken the whole day. We'll do another video about how we dealt with that, but we need to keep this story moving. So heartbroken all day. The next day comes and we're just we feel like we're depressed, and it's just like there's like this fog of just, what are we even doing? Is this?
It's like frozen in time. Like time's not moving.
Yeah, you're just like levitating everywhere. Like, ugh. So it's the very next day. We're just distraught, just super sad, thinking I don't even know what we're doing anymore. And then we get a call again. And I'm thinking maybe it's a different baby.
Yeah.
And Meryl says, hey, she changed her mind again.
Well, she first says, hey, can you get your wife on the phone? I'm really sorry to do this to you again. And I know this has been an emotional roller coaster, but she did change her mind back. And we're just like, ugh.
Yeah. Which I will say, in retrospect now, we all have to understand that a birth mom choosing that is a really big deal.
Yes.
And that is a decision that even though she changed her mind, we looked at her like, I completely understand why you're having a tough time with this. That's not something that we take lightly. It's a big deal. So tons of grace to her, and we love her a ton. She's incredible. And at the end of the day, she is the birth mom of our baby boy. So we have a ton of respect for her.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she changes her mind, and now now we're headed back. And so now we're headed back to the hospital. We literally stopped at a dealership along the way because we needed a minivan to hold all of our kids. And it was just funny because we were just like, we need to get a minivan. We were already shopping for a minivan before this, and then we had already found one that was kind of on the way. So we pick up our minivan, we're headed to go get Revy. We get there in the morning, and for whatever reason, there was an issue with discharging him with the social workers and the nurses. There was one nurse who was determined not to let us take him home. It was so weird and not fun, but we're finally able to just hold him. And we'll show you some videos of that right now, of us just holding him and pictures of us holding him.
Hi, Mommy.
Hey, buddy.
Say hi, Daddy. He's so handsome. Hi, Papa. Hi.
So we're going into the weekend, and we're hoping to get him home for the weekend. He's ready to be discharged. He's healthy enough to go, all of that. But there is a nurse that is just...
She didn't want us taking him home.
She did not.
At
I don't
all.
know if she didn't, if she wasn't for adoption, I don't know. I don't know. But she was not going to sign off. She was the head charge nurse, and she was like, you're going to have to wait till this social worker comes back on Monday to take him. So he was got to stay an extra couple days
And we
for
were
no
thinking-
reason really, other than, we had our court order, we had our signed court order, we had every bit of paperwork needed, but she didn't want to let him go. So thankfully, there was a nurse there that we know that we had gone to church with and all of that, and she signed for us to be able to take him home. So thankfully, we had a nurse that was on the floor that we knew very well that was willing to sign for us to be able to take him home. So we got him all discharged, we loaded him up in our brand new minivan, and we headed back home.
Yep. And I won't ever forget when we came into the house, and we probably have video of this, so I'm going to try to find it.
Look what I got.
You guys are here. I was thinking
Hey,
you were at Target.
look what I got for you. What is that?
A baby.
A baby. Nice. Grayson, look at your new brother.
Great.
Your new brother, his name is Revy.
Oh my word.
We brought him in. All of our kids were sitting on the couch, and we just were able to hand Scarlett. I think she was one of the first people, if not my
I think
parents.
Grayson did.
Grayson or Scarlett, either way. One of them was holding him, and they were just so enamored by who he was. They were just so pumped that they had a new baby brother. And then Knightley, who was the baby at the time, he sees us walk in with Revy, and he looks at him, and then he throws himself on the ground not today. He
Devastated.
was so upset.
Knightley was devastated for probably 8 to 9 months. So I had stayed home with Revere for a 6-week maternity leave. It was super fun, especially that I wasn't recovering and I was just doing great because I did not just birth a baby. And so it was easier to take care of him. And I go back to work at the end of my 6 weeks, and the day I go back, the state shuts down
Yep. So
for the COVID pandemic.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus.
Coronavirus.
There are fears a rapidly spreading virus has reached Australia.
The first U.S. case has been detected.
yeah, boom, everything shut down. Nobody gets to do anything. You can't, like, everything that's non-essential, done. We were all there, or at least most people watching this were all there. And now we're just all stuck at home with 4 kids.
Yes. So when this happened and everything shut down, we were only a week out from our court date to having Revere be forever ours.
The birth mom has to sign off on her basically rights with him. And so we were reaching that point, and then all of the courts were shut down. So it was like everything that's non-essential for courts, which adoptions were deemed not essential, were completely shut down. So now as adoptive parents, we're dealing with month after month, realizing that we have this baby boy, but she could change her mind at any moment.
Right. So how it works is if mom changes her mind when you have temporary custody of your child, you have basically 24 hours to go and bring the baby back to the adoption agency, and then you're back on the waiting list.
Yeah.
So we already had a little bit of insecurity built in us from the first time that she changed her mind. And we didn't realize through these months how much we were just living with our breath held until she finally signed.
And yeah, we got him in February, and she didn't sign off until
June 18th.
June, yeah. So that's a long time, and way longer than most parents.
Yeah, generally it's a
have.
6-week mark. Like usually from the child's birth till that court date is like a 6-week time period.
Yeah,
And
they
it
tell
was
you
4
to
months
hold,
for us.
They say hold your breath for 6 weeks, and
Yeah.
we had to hold our breath for 5 months. It was awful. And even then, when we had our court date scheduled, she didn't show up for the first one. And so then we were then we had this panic moment where now he's been our baby for like 5 months. He's like, he is stinking adorable. And we're like learning everything about him. He knows us to be mom and dad.
He started babbling and like.
And then the reality that she didn't show up to the first court date, because at the end of the day, she wanted it to be her decision. Somebody told her what that court date was. She wanted to determine that, and I completely understand that now. She wanted to have ownership in it, and it to be within her control, and it not feel like she's forced into it. So she ended up not showing up, and then she rescheduled the court date, and she signed off, and that was one of the most amazing days of our life, because then it was permanent. Then it was like, there's nobody who can just show up at our door and take him from us. Like, he is our son. And then his last name was changed from what his previous last name was to our last name.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. So when the birth mom signed off, she was very afraid that we would just cut her out and ghost her and not send pictures, not give her updates about his life. And that is not something at all that we ever had in mind. We wanted to make sure that she could see his development and just know that he's in a good home. There's a couple different ways of adoption. There's the closed adoption, which is kind of the typical way people always think, is like, you don't want your kid to be in contact with their birth parents, which is really like, they've found that that's not healthy at all, because it leaves a lot of questions unanswered for the adoptive child. We ended up with a semi-open relationship at the beginning, where she didn't know our last names, she didn't know where we lived, but we would still give her pictures and updates and stuff like that. Now we're at the point where it's very open. She knows our last names. We send her pictures. She doesn't necessarily know where we live, but she doesn't really want to. We have just been very open to whatever level of openness she wants. And ultimately, the reason why we chose that route and why it's so good for Revere is we're white, he's black. And he needs to know, ultimately, like, our kids can sit at a table and they can say, I look like mommy, I look like daddy. He needs to know who he looks like. And he needs to know what his background is like, and what his sister is like, and all these different things. And so it really is healthy for you to have a semi-open or open adoption, just so that they're not asking these questions internally and looking maybe at their siblings who are biological children, wondering, well, I don't know who I look like and stuff like that. So we really wanted to give Revy that. We wanted him to be able to never question those things and always kind of have an understanding of his history.
Yeah, and we understand that there are situations where that is not possible, where there are birth mothers who are incarcerated or in super tough situations where it is not safe for a child to be around them. We completely understand that. But we were blessed with a situation where it was a good option for us.
Yeah.
And for us, we've just always said when Revere grows up and he becomes an adult, we want him to always look back and see that we did everything we could for him to maintain an open door for his relationships with his birth family.
Absolutely. So it's been an incredible 2 years. Revy just turned 2 as of the filming of this last week. He turned 2. And so we've had 2 years of his cute little dimples and his cute little tooth gap, and just learning who he is. And he's just the best. Like when we look at him with our other children, we have the same amount of love that we do for him as all of our other kids. So even though his skin might look different, his siblings treat him exactly the same as their other siblings. Like he is so part of our family. Our kids just adore him. They love him. Grayson's like the best big brother to him. We'll find them just like cuddled up on the couch watching movies together.
Scarlett moms him and yeah.
And he's just the cutest, and we're just super happy to have him. And we just want to encourage you, if you're watching this, if you're curious about adopting, you should adopt.
Yeah, there are ways. I think there's not enough information readily available that's easy to reach for people that are wanting to adopt or have thought about adopting, and it feels so far away, but really it is possible. Everyday people can do it. There's a lot of ways that our government has even made it easier to adopt, and we'll talk about that a lot in vlogs to come. But yeah, if you've ever had a passion for adopting, if you've ever thought maybe I'll do that one day, here's your sign to go ahead and do it. And the cool thing about adoption that you will learn when you go through educational courses is that adoption is not a moment in time. It is ongoing for that child's life. And so when you adopt, you become a part of this adoption community and this culture that you'll always be a part of, and you'll be experiencing new different things as time goes on. And we'll talk about some of those things in future videos. But for now, we just want you to be encouraged to adopt if you've ever had a passion for it, or if you have a passion for having children and maybe you haven't been able to have any of your own biologically. This could be your sign to pursue adoption.
Yes, and the challenge and the heartbreak that could come with it is worth the joy that comes later.
Yes.
It really is. There were a lot of unknowns and a lot of scary questions that we were asking ourselves.
Yeah. The wait is worth it.
It's just worth it. You should do it, and it's incredible. Okay, come here.
Come here, Revy.
Come here, Revy. Okay, here he is.
Yeah.
This is Revere.
Say hi.
Say hello. Say hi. Good job.
Hi.
So guys, thank you so much for watching this video with us today. If you have any questions at all about our adoption or the process of adopting, comment below. Let us know if you have any questions at all. We'd be happy to be a resource for you. And we really just wanted to make this video to encourage you to adopt because it really changed our life. It changed his life.
So guys, don't forget to subscribe. We've got tons of new content coming your way. We've got a lot of adoption content that we're ready to share with you guys, and some more stuff that's gonna be really awesome. So subscribe, like this video, please share it with anybody you know that is thinking about adoption. We really wanna get the word out and encourage people to just go for it. There's so many children out there that need loving homes, and you could be one of them.
Make sure you subscribe. We've got awesome videos coming. We'll see you in the next one.
Say bye.
Say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh.